Wonder Woman 1984 has its first trailer, which means we're all here to do a trailer breakdown together as best we can. Easter eggs, references, things almost certainly or probably not missed, including the backstories behind the new villains, the time setting, how in the heck Steve Trevor has returned, Wonder Woman's new armor and abilities, and more things. Before we get started, if you could leave a like on this video, that would be just splendid. That'd be great. Really help me out. Okay, now that you're definitely going to do that, and I appreciate it. Let's Wonder Woman trailer. Now, the original release date for this movie was supposed to be December 13th, 2019. This, though, was of course pushed to June of 2020. This character has proven popular enough that it will most likely perform really well as a summer blockbuster. Also, if it did come out in December 2019, it'd be facing the likes of Trey Mungie and Star Wars, and that would mean that Sony and Disney and Warner Brothers would be chipping into each other's profits. I don't think it would necessarily be crushed by those two. I think it could take a significant amount of the box office from them, but this might give it a bit more of a clear run. Okay, so it's set in 1984, and we know this because Blue Monday by New Order is playing, a song that came out in 1986. Look, let's just assume that these DC movies take place in a timeline where Blue Monday came out in 1984, alright? And look, if we can all suspend belief for whipping lightning out of the air, then yeah, I'm happy to make this leap of faith. It's been described also as a standalone film, in the same way that like Indiana Jones or James Bond films are. Meaning that, yeah, it is a tie-in to the first Wonder Woman, and also Batman v Superman, and probably Justice League, I guess. But this is very much its own thing. Where's Diana Prince at, though, at this point in time? Well, we know from Batman v Superman that she'd been keeping her head low for decades. Nobody really had an understanding of who she was. They offer a bit of an explanation for that in this trailer, with her smashing the surveillance cameras. Surveillance systems like this were few and far between in the 80s. Nowadays it'd be a bit more of a problem to keep a low profile. But yeah, look, if we can all buy the Blue Monday came out in 1984, then we can also buy that smashing the cameras can conceal her identity for many decades. This being set in 1984 also, coincidentally, or more likely not so, could tie into George Orwell's 1984. You know, it's about a dystopian future where the government's always watching and everything is terrible. Sounds like bloody now, am I right? Ugh. But that element of this story will also tie into one of the villains, which we'll get back to. Walden Books. We get that in the mall. Now, there is actually a couple of characters named Walden from DC Comics. There's Walden Wong and Frederick Walden. Could be a nod to either of them. I mean, it could also be a nod to the real Walden Books book chain, and it's unlikely that we'll ever find out which of them it actually is. We see some images of Wonder Woman from the past. She's standing under a sign that says Trevor Ranch. That could be that she actually went and made friends with Steve Trevor's family after he was gone, or it could be that she owned a ranch and named it after him. That watch right there, you probably remember, is the watch that Steve Trevor gives her before sacrificing himself. We get an updated version of that in this trailer with a more modern watch. It's a nice little callback. Also, this moment here of her looking up at this plane, no doubt is her reminiscing about the death of Steve Trevor. He exploded in a plane, remember that? And also we get another sequence where she's protecting him, calling back to the first movie in that alleyway fight, which is also a callback to the Chris Reeves Superman. Anyways, we'll talk more about Steve Trevor in a bit, his resurrection specifically, how that's happened, because I want to get into some villains. Now, Kristen Wiig is playing Barbara Minerva. As in some versions of the comic, she starts off as Wonder Woman's friend. Kyle Buchanan over from Vulture reported that she emulates Wonder Woman and then seeks to usurp her. This version is apparently heavily based off the work of Greg Rucka, which is a story involving her selling her soul for supernatural powers, which turns her into a cheetah person. Though it wouldn't surprise me that in this continuity that it's perhaps a science thing, because we do see her in a science lab. There's also a version from the comics, and I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, that Wonder Woman thinks is corrupted by dark magic, but in fact, she always wasn't a great person, and being turned into a cheetah person just kind of allowed her to act how she always wanted to. Also, this moment here reminds me of Catwoman from Batman Returns. You know how everyone at the start of that movie is like, oh my god, look at this nerd. And then later they're like, oh my goodness, who is this? Alright, Maxwell Lord, a classic Justice League villain, though this time around, 80s businessman.
I'm from the same time as you. Remember that song, Safety Dance?
Sure do. We can dance. Dun, 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 dun.
Now, in the comics, he's initially on the side of the Justice League. He even bankrolls them at one point. Of course, it's actually for nefarious purposes and such, and it's revealed that he's collecting information on them or trying to destroy them. You know those guys, you know what they're about. So I'd say there's a very good chance in this movie that maybe he pretends to be on the side of Wonder Woman, maybe even helps her out, and has something to do with the resurrection of Steve Trevor. Again, we'll come back to that before turning on her. In the comics, there is a storyline where he causes a real Batman v Superman situation, and he says to Wonder Woman, in order for me to stop this from happening, because Superman's under like mind control or something, he's like, you're gonna have to kill me to stop me. So what Wonder Woman decides to do instead is turn his head backwards, which also inadvertently kills him. And Superman's like, oh my goodness. Yes? Remember that George Miller Justice League movie that was going to happen from a few years back? That was also going to heavily borrow this storyline. And instead of Wonder Woman turning his head around, it was actually going to be Armie Hammer's Batman. Anyway, that movie's in the bin. Didn't happen. We do see him, though, the Mandalorian himself, staring up into a blue light, which, you know, it's a superhero movie, so blue lights, you know what it's about. But also, this could be Brother Eye, which is a callback to Big Brother, not the TV show, but like the government from 1984. Brother Eye is like this interconnected surveillance system that covers the globe. We see he's also got a big movie villain secret satellite situation. So this is almost certainly that. And what it can also do, and I'm not sure whether they'll actually borrow this aspect of it, can turn people into OMACs. It's like a mind control thing. Could have something to do with this riot here, who's to say. But also in addition to technology, this guy also appears to be about weird artifacts and such, or at the very least, this crystal. Probably not just a regular crystal, it's probably a magic crystal. And speaking of magic, I wonder if here they're sitting inside the invisible jet. The invisible jet in the comics, the original one at least, it was invisible through magic, but I wonder whether this is a tech-based thing and not that. Or a combination of both. Let's find out when we see the movie. Okay, we get cutaways to Themyscira as well. We get an arena, which we didn't see in any of the previous movies, and what could be a young Wonder Woman, or it could just be a different Amazonian altogether. Whatever the case may be, I'd say Wonder Woman is probably not going to go back to Themyscira. She can't. But then again, this movie also brings people back from the dead. And Blue Monday, a song from 1986, appears in a movie set in 1984. We are in uncharted territory. Now, I haven't seen one of these in bloody yonks. A truck flip. Oh my goodness. Probably heard me bang on about this before, but truck flips were like a staple of superhero action movies from like 2002 to 2013. I'm just excited to see one again. It's looking good. It is about time for a truck flip revival. If this cycle continues as such, we're going to be getting some parkour dudes any second now. Trends are cyclical, you know that. But anyways, the people that they're fighting here are probably the Soviet Union, because according to the official release related to this movie, Diana Prince comes into conflict with the Soviet Union during the Cold War in the 80s and finds a formidable foe by the name of the Cheetah. All right, Steve Trevor, how is he being alive in this movie? Okay, there are a few potential explanations. Some are more likely than others. Number one, this is not the original Steve Trevor, as in maybe it's an ancestor of his grandson, great-grandson, and the like. I'd say this is almost certainly not the situation, because it's very heavily telegraphed that this is the Steve Trevor. Number two, it could be some kind of clone or replica with some or all of Steve Trevor's memories. Again, I consider this not as likely. Number three, though, he's brought back through magic. Maybe even this crystal. Could be time travel. Could have snatched him right out of that plane. Could be resurrection. We do get like a trembling watch. That could mean time travel. But it could also mean resurrection. Anyways, what's interesting about their relationship this time around is that she's teaching him, not the other way around, like in the first movie. So he's like, what's this? And she's like, it's a bin, you idiot. He's like, oh yeah, I knew that. Okay, let's get into some of the new Wonder Woman costumes and powers and the like. Just want to point out that the reason Wonder Woman wears wedges is because it's much easier to run around in these than like a thin high heel. Gives your foot more of a solid base to stand on. It just makes sense. This time around, she's also got the boomerang tiara, which I don't think we saw in the other movies. And also she's doing all sorts of new lasso stuff. Not just crazy whipping about, but there's a moment where she appears to be literally riding lightning. This, as far as I'm aware, is not an ability from the comic, but it's really not that far of a stretch. She's supposedly the daughter of Zeus. Well, she is in the comics. She gives a kind of similar explanation for her birth in the first movie.
I had no father. My mother sculpted me from clay, and I was brought to life by Zeus.
Well, that's neat.
Of course, we also get new Wonder Woman armor. Now, this style of armor was first introduced in the Kingdom Come comic from 1996. That was an Elseworld story. It wasn't in the main continuity, though it has since been folded in. It's also been dubbed by fans the Golden Chicken armor, and it's usually made by the Greek god Hephaestus, and it comes with like golden wings, chest plate, and a golden helmet in the shape of an eagle's head. I do wonder how much of this is CGI. Like, you know, most of the Iron Man suit is just not really there. It's probably that kind of situation. Why would Wonder Woman need armor though? Well, for a couple of reasons. She's not bullet or sword proof. We've seen that in the movies. We even see it in this trailer. If she's pinged by a bullet, it will draw blood. I mean, you'd think you'd also cover your face, but look, that's not... We're suspending disbelief, remember? Also, Wonder Woman, this version, like some of the comic versions, but not all, can't fly. So that again makes sense. I hope this isn't a final showdown scenario like the last one and most DC movies, where it's just CGI fire and smoke and lightning. I mean, it seems like a very brightly lit, neon, vibrant movie, so I'd be surprised if they did go down that way for the final showdown, but hey, you never know. History has a habit of repeating itself. Truck flips. Anyway, is there anything else that I've missed from this trailer? Or, conversely, did I make any minor or major grammatical or factual errors that just really kind of got under your skin? You know what I'm talking about? And maybe you want to correct me on that. Please, feel free to. But more importantly, have you seen anything else in this trailer? And how do you think Steve Trevor has returned? What's his deal? Also, if you like trailer breakdowns, you most likely like them enough to, at the very least, allow this video to play while you leave the room. Well, the good news is, I've recently got one for the Black Widow trailer. I'll link that at the end and below. And also, if you'd like to subscribe, because there's videos here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, that'd be great. Plus, I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out every Monday morning. There is a recent episode that just came out, where there was a whole bunch of trailers from the week that we got into. Black Widow, the new Bond, that one where Ryan Reynolds is like a GTA character or whatever. If you're on the commute to work or school or whatever, maybe you want to check it out. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it. Take care.